Hello everybody and welcome back. We are once again looking at some Pokemon VGC San Antonio Regionals content. This is the Masters Top 8 division. This is a recast, going over it, giving myself a little bit of experience with casting and analyzing the Pokemon video game. So with that, let's go ahead and get into things here. We have Tanner Mask versus Shiliang Tang. Now, you'll notice Shiliang Tang has the exact same team as Justin Tang, who we saw in the Masters Top 32 round. Tanner is also running Ice Rider Calyrex, though. This one has Glacial Lance, Close Combat, Trick Room, Protect on its own, and is a Terra Fire Calyrex. We occasionally see Terra Normal or even Terra Fairy, which I believe is what Shiliang Tang has. A little bit of a differentiation in terms of the Terra types there that could prove pretty important. Booster Energy, Raging Bolt, a Farigiraf with Safety Goggles, a Moongus with Rocky Helmet, Shempal with Focus Sash, and another Rapid Strike Urshifu with Terra Grass. This one with Choice Scarf instead. Again, all of these Rapid Strike Urshifus in Top Cut have Terra Grass. We see a lot if you go and look on the online usage numbers. A lot of them are not Terra Grass. That's not the most popular or the most common, but we are seeing Terra Grass Urshifu being the most successful. Notably, it also has coaching, which can put in some major buffs onto Ice Rider Calyrex or potentially onto the Raging Bolt as well, I believe. So that is something to look out for, a little bit of a spicy note to this team in that Rapid Strike Urshifu. Going over to Shiliang Tang's side, though, in just a few minutes, we're not going to spend as much time talking about it, but we are going to talk about the Calyrex versus Calyrex matchup a little bit. Now, notably here, this also has a Trick Room mode. The Calyrex Ice Rider has Trick Room, but there is no Farigiraf, there is no Indeedee. Instead, the other support Pokemon with speed control is Roaring Moon with Tailwind. Now, Ogerpon Hearthflame, Landorus Incarnate, Urshifu Rapid Strike, high hitting damage numbers. It is a water type Urshifu Rapid Strike, notably, or Water Terra. And then Terra Fairy Amoonguss, Terra Fairy on the Calyrex Ice Rider as well. High horsepower instead of close combat on this Calyrex as well. Now, notably, what Shiliang Tang's team, as well as Justin Tang's, the Tang Gang's teams do is give their players multiple speed modes. Roaring Moon has Tailwind, Calyrex Ice Rider has Trick Room, and then also there are a number of permutations where you have Trick Room up, your opponent has Tailwind up, you have Trick Room up and Tailwind up, you have Tailwind up, you have nothing up. There's all sorts of ways that you can permute these speed controls, and it makes the team very, very flexible. It also makes the team incredibly difficult to pilot in terms of finding the optimal or the correct places to be, the correct ways to set up, the correct ways to go at an opposing Trick Room team. I'm very interested to see how Shiliang is going to lead and how he is going to play against a pretty dedicated Trick Room team. It doesn't have 3 sources of Trick Room. It only has the 2 in the Calyrex Ice Rider and the Farigiraf, but I'm very, very intrigued to see how this is going to play out. Tanner Mask is going for full offense right out the... Oh, damn. That is hard to see. Unfortunately, with a little bit of a disconnect, I am going to, with the power of buttons and operating from the past, we get to skip forward. Now, we did see the leads. I'm assuming the players are going to bring the same leads. I would be shocked if they didn't bring the same leads. They could change up what is brought in the back. Notably, Tanner went full offense. Shiliang went Urshifu and Amoonguss. I don't think these leads were a shock or a surprise, but it is a little bit, interesting. So we saw there is a change in leads. Shiliang is going Ice Rider Urshifu himself. So it's Ice Riders and Urshifus up against each other's. Tanner's Urshifu does have that Choice Scarf. It is going to be moving before Shiliang's, but notably, it is a Mystic Water Urshifu, so it's going to be doing a little bit more damage for Shiliang than it will for Tanner. So again, we could see some switches here. We could see some utility. Both Calyrexes could set up Trick Room, and the way the IVs are trained could be pretty big here. Shiliang, I wouldn't be shocked if Shiliang is a little bit more... there's a little bit speedier for the Calyrex, but there we see the coaching come through. The attack and the defense goes up for the Calyrex. Doesn't matter with the Urshifu's signature move, Surging Strikes, but Surging Strikes, as we've seen time and time again, will not one-shot. It takes it just above half on that Calyrex Ice Rider. And here we see the Glacial Lance come through. It is the faster of the two horses and does not do that much damage. I'm pretty sure Tanner's Calyrex would have survived even without the defensive coaching boost. And there we see Glacial Lance comes through, does a decent chunk to Shiliang's Urshifu, but does not do that much to the opposing Calyrex. We know with the utmost certainty that this Calyrex can and will go down to Shiliang's Urshifu unless Tanner goes for Surging Strikes into that slot. It's getting a little complicated here. Or actually, it's a choice scarf. He has to go for coaching. Again, the defense is going to rise again. No switches out. Tanner makes a very, very bold call here to stay in against the Urshifu. If you're Shiliang, absolutely, you just go for it again. That Surging Strikes is going to be doing plenty of damage no matter what. Those crits aren't lucky. That's how the move works. Urshifu is a busted Pokemon. Calyrex goes down. Tanner gets no damage onto the battlefield this turn. Shiliang gets to go in for another Glacial Lance, high horsepower if he so chooses, or a Trick Room. Goes for the Glacial Lance, does some more damage to this Urshifu, who is locked into coaching. It gives defense boosts, which don't do really anything against Shiliang's Urshifu Rapid Strike. They do help out against the Glacial Lances out of Shiliang Tang, but that Glacial Lance is going to be super effective into the Raging Bolt. Booster energy is nice. The Raging Bolt can terastallize to take away that ice type weakness, but there is still going to be a lot of damage coming out here. A Thunderclap into the Urshifu Rapid Strike slot on Shiliang's side could do a lot of damage. I don't know if it'll outright KO, especially if Shiliang decides to go for a terastallization of his own, in which case the Urshifu is almost certainly going to survive. But a Glacial Lance here is going to be doing so much work, even with a terastallization and a defense boost. We see the terastallization come out here from Tanner. Like I said, it's almost certainly going into the Raging Bolt. It is Terra Electric. Hey, the horse can just go for high horsepower here and guarantee a lot of damage onto this Raging Bolt. The Thunderclap comes through. There's not a terastallization on Shiliang's side. This could be pretty important. The Urshifu does go down, but the horse, the last horse standing, gets to get off another Glacial Lance if they so choose. Coaching comes through. So it comes after the priority move. I was a little bit shocked for a second. Thunderclap, Thunderbolt have very similar moves, but Thunderclap is a very high priority move. Glacial Lance comes in again, going to be doing a good chunk of damage. Urshifu almost goes down, and Raging Bolt, the crit is huge. I was about to say that is an astonishing amount of damage for an unboosted Glacial Lance, but Shiliang now brings in the Landorus Incarnate. Raging Bolt would have to go for a Draco Meteor here to take it down. Urshifu can do absolutely nothing other than switch out. And this is going to be a very, very dangerous spot for Tanner here. This Ice Rider Calyrex is an incredibly threatening Pokemon. It does not have enough damage on it for Tanner to KO it with anything except maybe a critical hit Thunderbolt or maybe a Draco Meteor. But you already know that you're going to be doing plenty of damage and you are faster than this opposing Raging Bolt. Shiliang doesn't want to take any risks, so there were no boosts on that Calyrex that he was missing out on. Tanner goes for the Protect on the Raging Bolt, making sure that Landorus can't KO it at least this turn. The Sandsear Storm comes out, does have a chance to miss here. Protects, lands into the Protect, does over half damage to the Farigiraf, and now there is an Ogerpon Hearthflame on the battlefield. It resists the electric type moves out of the Raging Bolt. It could potentially go down to a Draco Meteor here, but I don't know that it will. And Landorus Incarnate with that Life Orb, with the Sheer Force boost, making sure it doesn't take any chip damage, but massively boosting its power. This is going to be a very tough spot for Tanner to get out of. It's going to have to involve some form of getting this Rapid Strike Urshifu onto the battlefield safely, which is probably going to mean either Farigiraf or Raging Bolt needs to die. And then somehow further getting that Urshifu to be able to take multiple knockouts while keeping Shiliang Tang having to switch things out, having to move things around. Raging Bolt goes down, the helping hand out of this Farigiraf doing absolutely nothing. The Earth Power from the Landorus taking it down, and right now it looks like Shiliang Tang has this first game on lock. Ivy Cudgel comes through. That's going to be Farigiraf down. It is now down to a simple 4 HP Urshifu Rapid Strike, and Tanner, unfortunately, does not have a shot in this game. It's taking his time here, thinking things through a little bit, likely thinking about next game, Both players led the exact same Pokemon, but had different things in the back. That is what happens when you have those different teams. Tanner's looking to try to see what damage calcs he can get. It's almost guaranteed that this Landorus is going to go down to Surging Strikes, but that is still going to result in a Hearthflame Ogerpon taking out with Ivy Cudgel. I like the scouting, though. I also like the not willing to go down without a fight. You're in top 8. You might as well try any way you can. Who knows? Your opponent might make a misplay here, but at the end of the day, it is not going to matter. And with that, game number 1 is done between these two players. And it was, even though it was two Shadow Rider teams, even though they led Shadow Rider and Rapid Strike, not Shadow Rider, Ice Rider. Have I been saying Shadow Rider this whole time? It's the Ice Horse, not the Shadow Horse. Even though Ice Rider and Urshifu were the leads for both players, it was very, very clear that Shiliang Tang had that in the bag. When you have a team, when you have a group of people that are practicing together and playing together, you build common archetypes, and especially if you're building the same team together, you're going to end up practicing against those archetypes a lot. And so I can guarantee that Shiliang has a ton of experience against other Calyrex Ice teams. So going into game number 2, Shiliang Tang versus Tanner Mask, and this time we get a change of leads. It is Ice Rider Calyrex and Urshifu for Shiliang, the same as before, versus Tanner's Amoonguss and Farigiraf. No berries on the field that Unnerve can deal with. Notably, Amoonguss with Rocky Helmet can make Rapid Strike Urshifu's life miserable. Notably as well, we know that Shiliang's Calyrex is faster than Tanner's. Tanner very likely could go for a Trick Room on the Farigiraf, and then you have some mind games that you would have to play. Tanner goes for the turn 1 Terrestrialization on the Amoonguss, turning it into Terra Water. Terra Water, Rage Powder on this Amoonguss here guarantees that Urshifu is going to be doing little to no damage. It is Mystic Water after all. Did not Terrestrialize to the Grass type here. It's a Terra Water, but the taunt from Shiliang, the absolute read here, doesn't take any chip damage from the Rocky Helmet, removes the Rage Powder and the Spore options, and makes Amoonguss essentially useless. Trick Room comes through, but the amount of damage that can be pumped out from these two Pokemon is next to none. And you can just ignore Amoonguss now if you are Shiliang Tang. It has very little damage output. It can't put your Pokemon to sleep, and you can just do absolute work on these other two. Even if you protect with the Farigiraf, that is just going to be Surging Strikes into that slot, taking it down. Notably, it does give Tanner a safe switch in. If the Farigiraf goes down, either of the two Pokemon in the back can come in, and that could mean a Calyrex comes in nice and safe. Now, you have to take KOs at some point, obviously, but we're going to have to see what he chooses to go for. Pollen Puff is pretty big. Farigiraf goes up to full health, and the Foul Play comes through, taking Calyrex Ice down to just over half HP. Notably, Surging Strikes is not actually going to be able to do enough here to take out the Farigiraf. It will potentially put it in range for Calyrex Ice to take it down, but with it being at half, it reverses the Trick Room. Shiliang is playing masterfully here, not being too aggressive, not being too greedy, puts his team in a phenomenal position. Amoonguss still cannot Spore, still cannot Rage Powder, and now Farigiraf is going to be one of the last, if not the last thing to move. Surging Strikes at this range, I think should take it down. I'm fairly certain, but we will have to see. Shiliang goes ahead, switches out into the Landorus Incarnate. Calyrex goes into the back. Helping Hand comes through from Farigiraf. This Pollen Puff is gonna be, kind of his saving grace here for Tanner. I imagine it is going to be going at Landorus. Tanner was taking the risk, hoping that the Calyrex stayed in, didn't protect, wouldn't be able to take down the Amoonguss, and hopefully was going to be able to take down the horse. Unfortunately, this is the Landorus. It is a flying type. It is going to resist this Pollen Puff. Even with the Helping Hand, it's not going to quite do much, and it does less. Is that a sixth of Landorus's HP? Shiliang still has 4 Pokemon standing, all with relatively high health. This Amoonguss is still stuck on Pollen Puff. The taunt has not been worn out yet and has not been switched out of. Calyrex Ice is on the battlefield. It doesn't mind looking at a Landorus Incarnate. It doesn't mind looking at an Urshifu, but looking at both of them at the same time is not something that you want to see. Shiliang is going for the Terrestrialization here, Terra Poison Landorus could be crazy, but no, it is going to be the Terra Water, Mystic Water, Urshifu Rapid Strike, going for the Surging Strikes here, most certainly into the Calyrex. I am 100% confident Shiliang has done the Calyx here. Earth Power takes the horse down below half HP. The Surging Strikes is going to clean that up. Amoonguss, I believe, next turn is going to have access to all of its moves, but there's going to be no Trick Room up for it to be able to get off anything before it can get hit by either Earth Powers, Sludge Bombs, Close Combats, whatever Shiliang wants to throw at it. And with only one Pokemon left in the back, we're up against 4 very healthy, very strong Pokemon on Shiliang's side. Tanner is going to have to do something phenomenal here. The Pollen Puff doesn't even get to do any damage. It was aimed into the Calyrex Ice slot. Shiliang is dominating this game. He had phenomenal control in game 1, and he is in firm position to move on to the top 4 here in game 2. Photosynthesis activated, special attack is ready to move. The Thunderclap is going to be your best bet to take out the Urshifu, but this Landorus is just going to keep tearing through the rest of your team. A Spore here could make absolute massive use out of this, but the Urshifu doesn't have to go for an attacking move. He can just taunt. The Raging Bolt goes down. Amoonguss isn't going to be able to Spore or Rage Powder here, and that is going to make it all but useless. Taunt goes through. Urshifu, the utility that this Mystic Water and Taunt set provides is absolutely phenomenal here. Urshifu is such a fast Pokemon. It can do so much damage. And yet, that Taunt utility has absolutely floored Tanner's Amoonguss. And that is going to be it for game number 2. Shiliang Tang takes home a top 4 slot at the San Antonio Regional Championships. That was a masterful game 2 from Shiliang. Manipulating the Trick Room setup, using that Calyrex Ice to reset the Trick Room, and the taunt from that Urshifu Rapid Strike came in so clutch. I'm going to have to go back and look at my Urshifu builds that I'm using on my Kyogre team and see if I shouldn't swap out the Choice Band for something else so I can get those taunts in. That was normally Urshifu Rapid Strike. Normally Amoonguss with Rocky Helmet is a counter to Urshifu Rapid Strike, but Shiliang, the Tang gang in general, Justin Tang has the same Urshifu that Shiliang does. Stops Amoonguss instead of getting stopped by Amoonguss with that Terra Grass as well, that defensive Terra making it immune to Rage Powder and Spore, should it need to, which it didn't need to anyways. Or actually, I'm sorry, it's even Terra Water. Terra Grass doesn't matter, it has Taunt instead. A phenomenal game by Shiliang Tang. Good work. Congratulations to Tanner Mask for making it to the top 8. And I'm excited to see Shiliang in the top 4. And maybe, who knows, farther than that. But thank you so much for watching. Until next time, y'all, be safe, be smart, make wise decisions, and farewell.